Okay, hey folks, welcome back. This is another Playground Unity tutorial, and this time we're going to be looking at Tilemaps and creating a more interesting world quicker and faster. All right, let's dive in. Where I left off last time, we had a few blocks and we had two characters, each one controlled by a different side of the keyboard. And now we're going to dive into Tilemaps. And in order to do that, we need to go up to Window and go to our Package Manager and see if we have our Tilemap set up. And if we don't, we're going to go Packages, in Project. We're going to go to the Unity Registry. And we're going to look for Tilemap Editor. And Tilemap Editor is currently installed as part of the 2D features. Fantastic. So if it's working for you as well, great. If not, you can go ahead and make sure that this is set up and imported into your level. This should allow us to go to Window, 2D, Tile Palette. And I like to just dock my tile palette with my inspector. And so you can customize this palette, but for today's tutorial, we're just going to use the basics of this tile map. And in order to use this, we need to first create an object to receive the tile maps in our scene. So in order to make way for this, I'm going to go ahead and select the two blocks that we have here. I'm going to go ahead and delete those. And then in the hierarchy, I'm going to right click, and under 2D object, I'm going to create a tile map, rectangular. All right, this, we then need to jump back to the inspector. This grid will then show up and it will have a tile map associated with it. And anything you're doing, you want to place onto that tile map. So to do that, you go to the tile palette again, you select one of these different tiles that you'd like to use, you select the paintbrush, and then you paint very quickly with your tiles. Now, something is happening here in that the grid and the tiles appear to be of a different scale. And so that's why we jump back to our inspector, we select the grid, and this default grid from Unity is actually, this default tile palette is set to be about the size of 2 and 2. So you can see that when I make those changes, the entire grid expands, and these are no longer in my camera, but they are now the right size to be used with this grid. I can go back to the tile palette and I can now jump over to the erase and I can erase these things. Another handy thing here is if I have the paintbrush, I can hold down Shift and that will also remove those. So if you want to just paint and you don't want to jump back and forth, you can just hold Shift. You can also use the rectangle tool and you can just drag and create a large stretch or a deeper area as you, actually I just deleted because I was holding down Shift. But you can create a larger block. So you can really quickly create that tile map. Okay, so the other thing is, and I should have been in that tile map, hopefully. The other thing is you can also create multiple things on the same level or the same palette with different tile. Oh, and I'm still in block. I thought I was in brush. So you can add all of these pieces here as well. And then once you're ready, you can select the tile map in the hierarchy and you can say add component. And under this, you can say tile map collider 2D. And this entire thing is now turned into a collider. And we can call it ground. Tag it as ground. And now when we press play, our character should fall onto it. We should have the ability to jump multiple times on either side. So now we can figure out how to get up and over. And there we have that pesky problem from the last tutorial where our characters were doing this silly rotation business. So we're going to get to fixing that. But I also wanted to talk about the fact that, what if I didn't want to have all of these blocks be part of ground? So I can go back to my tile palette, I can grab my erase, and I can just get rid of all those dirt pieces. And now over here, I'm going to select grid, and then I'm going to right click and say 2D object, tile map, rectangular. Oh, it did this to me last time. Okay, what if I select tile map and right click 2D tile map, rectangular? No, it's still doing it. What if I right click on grid? Maybe that is what was giving me an issue. Yes. Okay, that's finicky. I'm used to object-oriented. I'm used to selecting something and having it be applied to that, but you actually need to right-click on the thing. There we go. So I've now created a second tile map, and I can give this a name of background. I can give this one a name of ground to help keep them straight. And so now if I was to create let's actually just use the rectangle tool and say everything that's in the back, I'm on ground, sorry. Background. Everything that isn't ground is background. Fantastic. And now if I press play, I think we're going to have a problem. And that problem is going to be, oh, the problem didn't happen this time. In older versions of Unity Playground and Unity, there would be an issue happening here where my background would actually be in front of my characters when they were animated. And so what I would need to do, and it's still a good idea, because if you don't do this, you might have weird things where certain things are in front, certain things are behind when you don't want them to be. So if you select your background and you go to Tile Map Renderer, down here under Sorting Layers, which is under Additional Settings, which you'll need to open up, you can change that sorting to background. And that means that it should always be behind all of the other objects, and you'll never run into that problem. Thankfully, it looks like that problem isn't there, but this is an important step to learn. Okay, so I am all covered on everything related to the tile map. Now we can address our weird characters rotating around when we don't want them to be rotating around. So if I go to if I go to Rigid Body 2D and open up these constraints, I can freeze rotation in the Z, and I can do that on both of these characters. And once I have done that, they should no longer spin wildly after they are no longer spinning wildly. They are now fixed in this position. While I'm at it, I'll also just check oriented direction and player 2, oriented direction, and press play. And this is also causing chaos because my look axis defaults to up, and this character is currently looking right. This one is currently looking right as well. So now if I press play, now if I go left and right, which is the only thing I'm allowed to do the way that I've set up to move with arrows, they will change the direction that they're facing as they start moving in that direction. So there we go. The beginning of my 2-player platformer game has started. I can create worlds super quickly with my tile map creation, and that's where we're going to leave this week's tutorials for Unity Playground. And next week we'll come back with some more advanced tutorials to let you take this information even further. Thanks for joining.